What's up, YouTube? Rahul back to the family. Yusra, everybody. I hope everybody doing all right. So, I got an interesting topic, okay? And this is going to give you an overstanding of Nuwauku. It's going to give you an overstanding of Noon and pretty much a lot of what's taking place inside of the human brain, right? And I'm going to bring you right into what is known to general public as fluid intelligence and crystallized intelligence. Now, in Nuwauku, this is what people misunderstand as what is Nuwauku and what is Nuwauku. Okay? Now, fluid intelligence, just to give you a couple facts, it deals with, let's see here. Fluid intelligence involves being able to think and reason abstractly and solve problems considered independent of learning, experience, and education. Examples of the use of fluid intelligence: solving puzzles and coming up with problem-solving strategies. Now, this is very unique because this deals with a lot of the intellect. So we're talking about a fluid intelligence, right? A very intellectual ability to put together a puzzle without ever being done one before. Okay? And then you have crystallized intelligence, which would deal with facts and information and gathered knowledge, book knowledge and things that you've gathered over the years. Okay? So you have two different paradigms here. And this needs to be understood because then you can understand what is Nuwauku scientifically and what it does for the brain, because what you have to understand, any one of these that you do not balance out equally, one will conquer the other and it could be damaging to your brain. It can actually cause brain damage. All right, so too much crystallized intelligence dealing with facts and information and not allowing your fluid intelligence to secrete and produce, then you can actually shrink your cerebral cortex. Okay, and that's very important because Nuwauku is a marriage of science and the truth of mythology, or what they've been calling mythology. So if you've actually gotten the facts of the information of modern day mixed with the fluid intellect that was once given, that people have lost from dealing with too much information. Okay? So people don't realize when they are reading and taking up so much information, they are shrinking their brain, a very important part of their brain, a creative part of their brain. So you don't see people being creative anymore. You see people pretty much talking about the same things over and over and over again, or the same topics, just to give you an overview. Now, crystallized intelligence, okay, as long as opportunities for learning are available, crystallized intelligence can increase indefinitely during a person's life. So, for example, vocabulary knowledge is known to increase in college professors. This was a study. It was known to increase in college professors throughout their lifespan. So anybody who calls themselves some type of scholar and they study, this is actually exercising your crystallized mind. And this has a lot to do with the crystal children, as I will mention in another video. Okay, so the crystal children, they deal with facts and they deal with information, but a certain type of information. Fluid intelligence, let me give you another example of this. It represents the biological basis of intelligence, and measures of fluid intelligence, such as speed of reasoning and memory, increase into adulthood and then decline to the aging process. Fluid intelligence is a reasoning. It's your ability to reason things out, right? But you have different kind of reasoning now. You have reason based off your instinct. You have reason based off your logic. You have reason based off your intellect. You have reason based off your crystallized intelligence as well. But being that Nuwauku is the science of now and the happening, there will be actually no reason for me to give you this knowledge and this information right now, because these events are constantly taking place. So this is an act right now of crystallized intelligence being passed on to one person to another. And again, if you take up too much, if you're sitting around on YouTube all day watching video to video and reading book to book and studying, you are shrinking your intellect and your ability to actually be able to reason. okay? Because you're indoctrinating yourself. So there's always been those people who never needed no books, no videos, no information, and they can always see things and perceive things right and exact. All right, now let me be very clear. This is not one versus the other. This is not crystallized intelligence versus fluid intelligence. However, like I said earlier, if you do exercise one more than the other, you will shrink a part of your brain depending on which one of these you are exercising. So the key again would be to balance these things out. That would be to, look at your history and ancient history and apply it to today's day and age with your creative mind and your ability with your ninth dimensional perspective to ideally paint a big picture of before, the future, and now, while all existing at this very moment that I speak. Okay? So, crystallized intelligence, again, this is acquired, applied knowledge. I want to be clear on that, right? Because we also have what you would call DNA intelligence. And this would fall under fluid intelligence, to where it is an intellectual ability and it can be genetically encoded in your DNA, rather than crystallized intelligence would be dealing with, again, outside information, learning and applying, what you've learned and experienced through your educational process to your reality and your lifestyle. Okay? So, sound intelligence, all this type of thing, these will all fall under water, under fluid intelligence. Mathematical, analytical, and also digital, all these types of way of thinking and educating yourself all fall under crystallized intelligence. So in this time of the information age, we are being crystallized and we don't even realize it, right? But if you do not practice what you preach, again, you can be causing brain damage on yourself. So the purpose of Nuwauku, you get the mixture of both, okay? You get the facts and you get all the information, but then it was time to take heed to that information and apply that knowledge and let it pretty much give you a genetic explosion of memory, rather than the crystallized information, which would be what you memorized from when you was a child. So you have two different kind of memories. You have genetic memory and you have memory of what you've learned. An alchemist knows that this is all dealing with the internal you. So there's already been a spark that sparked off inside of you that wants you only to deal with facts. But again, you have to practice your fluid intelligence. You have to exercise your intellectual ability to be able to reason through the facts. Right? This is why Nuwauku deals with right knowledge and right thinking. This all corresponds with fluid intelligence and your intellectual creativity and ability to read stones, rather than look at a definition and memorize that definition and then tell somebody years later that's what it is because that's what you've been told. There's expression behind stones and pictures. So two people can look at a picture and come up with two different meanings, right? Two different stories while looking at the same picture. And one story can be much more detailed than the other. One can be much more suspenseful. One can be action, depending on what the author wants to write about or the writer wants to write about. And also depending on their ability to pretty much take from that picture and use their ability to imagine a bigger world and create a world out of that one picture. All right, a whole story in a play. For example, now I want you guys to go and look into this information that I'm talking about and, get your own research on. But to put it in perspective, what has taken place throughout this whole process of people gaining this knowledge throughout this information age, something good has taken place, and that is that we only want to deal with facts. But what that also does is that makes you just like a crystal. Well, not so much you become crystallized, but your brain rather becomes crystallized. And what does that mean? That means that it traps light. Crystals trap light. So it traps the light within you, and now your intellect or your fluid intelligence can no longer shine forth. All right. So you don't want to, again, attain or access too much information. You want to be able to listen to yourself in meditation, and anything you look around and you see or you read, you can pull out the truth and extract what it is that is right and exact and what is falsehood. That is ability beyond the information that you're even reading or what I'm telling you right now. You understand? So the Bible was very interesting in its whole craft because you understand that we dealt with the facts, and that was a whole crystallization. And throughout those facts, we also dealt with mythology, and we dealt with other things to balance out the fluids in the brain. All right. So there was an alchemist on the land, and people didn't even know. What is taking place is people have trapped themselves and became too crystallized. Now they're dealing with so much information that they want the facts. They're like, who said this and who said that? Well, where did you get this from? Well, what about your ability to do the research and reason out the information and come up with the conclusion? Because when you do that, then you'll find yourself with the elite. Now, fluid intelligence, it deals with your intellectual reasoning, but there is something also higher than that, what I like to call etheric intelligence, or just the etheric realm when you're connected to universal knowledge. Now, the intellect is key, but it still deals with earthly matters. Okay, you still use this ability to navigate and reason your knowledge out of things that you acquired or things that surround you. But there's no reason for me to really deal with Google because I have a load of information that was left that attains to right knowledge and right thinking that leads to right reason. Okay? That deals with fluid intelligence. Don't allow the crystallized intelligence to battle with the fluid intelligence. You want these two things to correspond with each other in unison. Thus, you get your etheric cord connected again to the universe. So, in summary, I'm going to say that a crystallized mind or too much data acquired from learning from outside sources, this can turn you into a stone or a narrow-minded individual who only accepts facts and has the incapability to really use their abstract thinking and reasoning. And fluid intelligence, that is your ability, I said, to reason, abstract reasoning, right? So you'll be able to walk up to a question and solve the problem based off of intellect and your ability to formulate strategy to come up with a conclusion, okay? Rather than memorize what you've learned in the past to apply your answer. For example, you know 2 plus 2 is 4, and that will never change. So you will dig into that memory bank of remembering what you've learned in 3rd grade to apply to that question if it's posed to you as an adult. 2 plus 2 equaling 4. But an example of fluid intelligence would be you figuring out a puzzle that you've never seen before using your abstract thinking. Both of these things are important, not equally important. Fluid intelligence is slightly more important than crystallized intelligence. Both of these things are needed. You could be shrinking or growing one side of your brain or both sides of your brain, depending on your methodology and your research. Now, language, facts, again, all these things are inherited and not genetic. So, therefore, this all falls under crystallized intelligence. And fluid intelligence, that would be your ability to put together a puzzle or something that you've never seen before. Okay, problem solving without using or applying your skills of what you learned through the educational system, as I explained. Now take this information and do your research on the topic and begin to conclude, because then you'll understand what the purpose of Nuwauku is, what the purpose of Dr. Malachi Z. York was, and how he turned lead into gold, which again, I got prepared for you guys in another video that's going to be very interesting to talk about how the spark in your genetic has already taken place and the job has already been done. And if you kind of miss the shift, then it's just that you missed the shift. So if you're complaining about what taking place 20, 30 years ago, then obviously you are misinterpreting and mistransmitting the whole objective and what the goal was of Nuwauku. Okay? So in closing, let me give you a crystallized fact. And that is, a fact is just that. It is a crystallized thought, and it is also limited to a prism. Okay, that is why it is called crystallized intelligence, because it is light that is trapped inside of a prism or inside of a crystal. Therefore, you have to go beyond even the facts, and that is sound reasoning. Okay, you have to have your fluid intelligence, which ultimately gives birth to your crystallized intelligence. You have to exercise that and use that, and there are ways to do so. Look it up, figure out which ways there are to do so, and make sure you utilize both of these intelligences, because they are both vital to the growth of your brain and the development of your brain. So fluid intelligence, right, it correlates also with your intellectual reasoning, but your intellectual reasoning is not your highest attribute. All right, your intellectual reasoning, that is nothing more than you using the ability to figure out earthly matters or navigate through earthly situations. So when you have your fluid intelligence working well in unison with your crystallized intelligence, thus gives birth to your etheric intuition. Okay, and that goes on even to higher realms of that. As I said earlier, there are 9-dimensional perspectives. I'm no longer going to be using these terms that I'm using now to identify or really grasp the concept of what I'm trying to bring forth, because we have our own words that describe these intellects, outellects, intuitions, clairvoyance, etc. So that's what I want to use, and that's what I'm going to get into. I'm just giving you the perspective right now, so that when I'm speaking on these, come back to this video and you can understand the difference in what I'm talking about when it comes to Nuwauku. So listening to information from individuals too much can be damaging, especially if there's no culture behind it to show you the expression of these facts that people speak about. So this is the marriage of facts and culture with Nuwauku. Until next time, peace and wadu.